Welcome to the series of webinars on innovations at high-performing charter schools in Illinois. The series is made possible through an ISB contract with Measurement Incorporated and the Senseo Group. I'm Sarah Silva from Measurement Incorporated, and my colleague Tanya Yarosovich is from Senseo. Tanya, please wave. On our support team is Christina Limson-Harvey from Measurement Incorporated, who will be our technical troubleshooter for today. Christina, please wave. Thank you. And you can chat to her if you're having technical issues. Now, today's presentation is about how to incorporate the natural world into all facets of our curriculum. What does it mean to be a green school? How can we embed these practices even in urban schools? And what do teachers and students think about this unique way of teaching and learning? We're about to find out. This webinar is being recorded and will be archived in the Best Practices corner of the Charter Schools page of the ISB website. Now, we're keeping all attendees muted till it's time to participate. And at that time, you can unmute yourself. And if you have a question, use the raise hand function that appears in the reactions box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And of course, you can also drop questions into the chat box as you think of them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our presenters. Team, take it away.
Thank you, Sarah. Let me just get our presentation up here. All right, we would like to welcome you to Outside the Four Walls, engaging students through the lens of environmental learning. We are from Prairie Crossing Charter School in Grayslake, Illinois. My name is Naomi Hershiser, and I'm the Dean of Environmental Learning here. And
hi, I'm Tony Zamier, and I'm the Dean of Faculty and Students. Welcome.
And we're excited to have you here. We're going to ask people to chat in where they're from and what their role is, but we don't have that many folks to chat in yet. So maybe as people come in, we will do that. But we're going to go ahead and get started. Environmental learning addresses a lot of learning standards in almost every subject area that you can think of. So this is including Earth systems, ecosystems, biological evolutions, energy, and more in science, research to build and present knowledge, presentation of knowledge and ideas, integration of knowledge and ideas, and production and distribution of writing in ELA, inquiry skills, civics, economics, and financial literacy in the social sciences, measurement and data in math, and many more. It has connections to art, foreign languages. Every subject area, as I said, can be hit through environmental learning. Now I'm going to pass it over to Jeff Deegan, our Executive Director, who's going to give you just a little background about our school and what we're about.
Thank you, Naomi, and thank you guys for joining us today. We're excited to share a little of how Prairie Crossing Charter School has operated over the last 20+ years. We hope to share a little bit of our why, our just cause, our main goal as a public school. It all comes from one belief, and that belief is what's on your screen. We believe that children are the best hope to improve our world. Go ahead, please. And how we work toward that belief is by providing that child with the opportunity to become what we call a natural leader, by providing that path where the child can discover ways to collaborate, to be aware, to be respectful, to be empowered, and of course, to be sustainable. Yes, please. When we do that correctly, we argue we provide a education like no other, okay? So quick history on our charter school. Back in 1996, then Governor Jim Edgar passed legislation allowing for charter schools in Illinois. So in 1999, we opened our doors to our first classes. Originally, we started out as a kindergarten through second grade and would add a grade band or more each year. And until 2006, we became a full-fledged K through 8 public school. Our district makeup is a little bit unique, as our campus literally sits on the border of two surrounding districts. So on your screen, the upper right screen is Woodland District 50. The lower left is Fremont District 79. Any child who lives within those two districts are eligible for a free education at Prairie Crossing. We have and we continue to build our curriculum, our operations, everything we do on 4 foundational pillars. Yes, please. Environmental learning. Simply put, the environment is at the center of everything we do. Go ahead, please. From the boiler room to the boardroom, sustainability is a key identity, a key driver, and a key influencer on all of the decisions that we make here at Prairie Crossing. Yep. Along the way, we've received many, many accolades, which you'll hear a little bit more about, but that's only part of the picture. We've received national, local, and regional awards for doing this through a green lens. Go ahead. Our second pillar is academic excellence. First and foremost, we know we're a public school, and academics are really why we are here. Yes. So using innovative approaches to our curriculum helps provide results that not only our parents are looking for, but ultimately strengthens our community. As an example, 75% of our graduates enter high school in either honors or AP classes. And consistently, year after year, we're in the top 10% of all state assessments of all schools in Illinois, without ever having to have taught to the test. Go ahead. Our third pillar, I would argue one of our most important pillars, is certainly partnering with parents. We understand that parents make a choice to come to this school and for their child's education. We know that they're vital to the success of the students and frankly to our own existence. Go ahead. And so we invite parents into the classroom, into all aspects of our school, from being in the classroom as helpers, as aides, to volunteering, to the governance of our school. Our board of directors is currently 10 members, each one of them being a parent involved in the school. Brings a whole new perspective to how a board operates at a public school. Yeah. Look, I think, you know, when we get to this, it helps provide that small school atmosphere, that small school learning environment. Whether we're necessarily small or not isn't the case. It's that feeling that we leave with that and that all kids can enjoy and expect when they choose our school. Go ahead. And last but not least, I mentioned before, our children become, go back one, our children become natural leaders. They care about their fellow classmates. They care about the environment. They care about each other. They care about themselves. Go ahead. They understand that symbiotic relationship, that interconnectedness of not only the natural and built environments, but about themselves. They care about being inclusive. They care about being equitable. And when we do that, and we do that correctly, go ahead. We know that they leave us, when they leave us, their future is unwritten, yet they know that they are the authors. And finally, and we know through all that we're in good hands, not only us, but they are, their future is. And if we do this correctly, we believe that they are our best hope to improve the world. So I want to thank you back, and I'm going to turn it back to for coming, and I turn it back to Naomi now.
All right, thanks, Jeff. That was a great sort of grounding in what we do as a school. And now we're going to look out and put this into the big perspective for a second. There we go. You know, our goal as an environmental school is we believe that children are our best hope for the future, and we want to create a sustainable future. I think most people would argue that they don't want an unsustainable future. And that's why this quote is really important. If you're not educating for sustainability, you are educating for unsustainability. If you just ignore the issue of environmental learning, you're actually contributing potentially to an unsustainable world. And so now you're going to hear from Jenny Seydel, who is the executive director of the Green Schools National Network, to put what we do into a national perspective. Oh.
Honored to be able to share with you some of the exciting work that Prairie Crossing is doing as a member of our Catalyst Network. The Catalyst Network is a collection of 200 educational partners around the country who are creating and transforming their schools or districts to prepare their students as sustainable citizens for the future. Our mission is a bold one. The mission of the network is to transform K-12 education so that all children attend a healthy, equitable, and sustainable school. We do this by partnering with schools and districts around the country who are already focused on creating a sustainable future and interested in deepening their work through research and evaluation. We support their projects and initiatives in 4 key areas: K-12 sustainability leadership, creating a climate and culture that enhances health, equity, and sustainable mindsets, designing and implementing curriculum and instruction practices that advance environmental and sustainability literacy, and sustainable design, operations, and management of their campuses and facilities. Each of our partners develop a strategic action plan that allows them to become leaders in this growing movement and to improve their practices. As a founding member of the Catalyst Network, Prairie Crossing has worked with GSNN over the past 4 years in 2 critical areas: climate and culture and curriculum and instruction. Prairie Crossing has focused their work on creating a comprehensive natural leaders program that reflects both the best practices in social and emotional learning and the best practices related to creating a climate that supports sustainability mindsets. They are now implementing and designing an assessment model that will allow them to determine the impact of their work, both short-term and long-term, on their students, faculty, and staff. Their goal is to create a culture, an inclusive culture of sustainability and caring for self, others, and the environment, both today and tomorrow. On the curriculum and instruction side, Prairie Crossing has done an amazing amount of work to refine their model so that all students at their school demonstrate growth each year in all academic standards through an integrated curriculum grounded in education for sustainability, service learning, and place, project, and problem-based learning. They have created a beautiful, comprehensive rubric that allows their faculty to examine and improve their curriculum based on research-based practices. And they have transformed their curriculum maps to reflect and to show that every child, every year, experiences deeper learning through an integrated P3BL, that's place, project, and problem-based learning curriculum unit. While this work is ongoing, the work that Prairie Crossing has done to support faculty and staff in their understanding of sustainability is a game changer that will have long-lasting effects beyond this curriculum and instruction work and will deepen their work related to climate and culture. As a member of the Catalyst Network, Prairie Crossing has become one of our first replication hubs. Our replication hubs are focused on sharing their best practices with others so that they too can transform their schools or districts into a healthy, equitable, and sustainable school. In the fall of 2019, Prairie Crossing hosted our first site-based showcase seminar, and we were hoping they would be able to replicate that showcase seminar for others this year. But with COVID, we're now beginning to look at both virtual and site-based seminars in the coming year. In addition to this site showcase seminar, Prairie Crossing has been highlighted in numerous articles in our Green Notes publication and in our Green Schools Catalyst Quarterly, which is the only peer-reviewed journal related to documenting these best practices in the world. We're super excited about that. And we are also very excited that they will be featured in a chapter in a book that will be published later this year titled Trailblazers for Whole School Sustainability, Case Studies of Educators in Action. Their work is deep, their work is profound, and we are honored to be their partners as they expand and deepen their work for both impacting their students, their parents, their community, and beyond. So enjoy their presentation, and we look forward to being able to watch the recording as it emerges. So thank you very much and enjoy your day.
Okay, so nothing I don't think speaks to our legacy and the impact.
Hi, my name is Griffin Fox. I graduated last year in 2020. I now go to Warren Township High School as a freshman. I am currently in the band program and play baseball for the freshman team. During my time at PCCS, I have encountered a lot of different amazing memories that I will never forget. My favorite was when I got to go to conserve school. I learned a lot of things about nature and had an amazing time with my friends going canoeing, biking, and stargazing. Environmental learning is important because there are a lot of problems on Earth right now. Because of environmental learning, it is possible to start making small changes that can alter and slowly fix the problems that we have already caused on Earth. The environmental learning at PCCS has impacted my choice of projects, such as my Eagle project. My project was intended to make a native pollinator garden with mason bee habitats. In my daily life, I look for environmental causes to support and environmentally friendly packaging. PCCS has been a great experience for me, and I will treasure the knowledge and memories that it has given me.
All right, we're gonna try the spacebar thing again. Yay! All right, we're moving back in time now from a graduate from last year to Ben, who graduated in 2013.
Hello, my name is Ben Steinbeck, and I graduated from PCCS back in 2013. I am currently a senior at the University of Minnesota. I'm going to be graduating shortly with a degree in genetics and cell biology. So I have a lot of really fond memories from my time at PCCS. I think one of the coolest things we were able to do is take part in a prairie burn in a prairie right by school, where we were included and we were able to take part in the process. And I think it's just a memory that stuck with me for a long time. And it's something I think very few other people have ever been able to be a part of. And, you know, it's a really good learning opportunity, I think. I think environmental learning is really critical. It really gives you a fresh perspective about our relationship with nature and our place in the world. And I think there's no better way to do that than to actually just get out in nature, explore and learn. I mean, just, you know, hands-on doing things. I mean, it's a really good way to learn. And especially after this past year, I mean, we all know how important it is to get outside. It's just for our mental health and well-being. And I think it's something that it's really good that kids learn from an early age to respect and really enjoy being in nature and being outside. Yeah, and I mean, I think that a lot of the experiences I had really gave me a deep appreciation for nature and the environment, and it's something that I will continue to have throughout my life, and it's impacted some of the decisions I've made. I mean, one thing that was important for me going to college was make sure I have access to green spaces and access to nature, which I do here in Minneapolis, and you know, it's just really taught me to respect our environment, and it gives you a different perspective about our place in the world. And I think that's something really special and something that you really don't get at any normal school. And I really wish more kids were able to experience that type of education. Thank you. Ooh.
All right. And finally, we're going to go back to our very first graduating class with our last alumni testimonial with Jaclyn here.
Hi everyone, my name is Jaclyn Pytlarz, and I was a part of the first graduating class from PCCS back in 2006. Since graduating, I've had a bit of a journey. For high school, I went to an environmental college prep boarding school in northern Wisconsin, then off to Rochester, New York to get my bachelor's in motion picture science at RIT. Got offered a job out in the San Francisco Bay Area, ended up going for my master's in computational mathematical engineering at Stanford. And now I'm a staff researcher in Dolby Laboratories' Applied Vision Science Group, where I'm the lead algorithm engineer for our Dolby Vision product. Basically, that means on a day-to-day basis, I may be doing psychovisual experiments to learn how people see and perceive imagery, or I might be designing and coding algorithms to go on next TVs or iPhones. Even with this long journey, I often think back to my PCCS days with all the amazing teachers and experiences. In 6th grade, we even got to have our own classroom in the barn. Thinking back, there are two key defining moments. The first was in 5th grade, when we had to make a presentation on an environmental leader. This was my first ever big presentation, and I remember, diving deep into the research and practicing for hours with my mom, and I became a mini expert on the subject. Today, I travel the world speaking at conferences and even representing the United States when making international standards, and it all started at PCCS. The second moment was in 7th grade when our class was presented with a problem. We were told that the saline levels in the lake were getting too high, and it was our job to analyze the situation and come up with a proposal on how to fix it. We got to work researching fish in the lake, acceptable saline levels. We even hypothesized that perhaps the increase was coming from the salting the roads in the winter. We went out weeks apart to take water samples from various parts of the lake to analyze. It was the first time that I was presented with a scientific problem without a right or wrong answer. It taught me how science connected to the world around me. I use these techniques in everything that I do. Every day I'm faced with a problem and there's no answer key. And what I learned during that problem is essentially the foundation of my success today. Although I'm not in the environmental field today, my love for the outdoors continues through everyday actions, hikes, and long backpacking trips in the Sierras. I'll never forget the PCCX experience. It made me who I am today.
All right. So now we are going to have the opportunity to chat with some of the wonderful teachers that give these students these incredible opportunities that shape their lives. So we have several of our teachers here today that are going to share their experiences and what they do with you. I'd like to ask them to each just quickly introduce themselves. We can go down the list in order. So Mrs. Parker, are you there?
Yep. So I'm Julie Parker. I teach kindergarten.
I'm Christine Jeffrey, and I teach 1st and 2nd grade.
I'm Megan Ottaviani, and I teach 3rd and 4th grade.
I'm Susan Neal, and I teach 5th grade.
I'm Chris Hershiser. I taught 6th grade last year, but now I'm the 7th, 8th grade math teacher.
I'm Heather Jackson, and I'm the 7th and 8th grade science teacher.
Hi, I'm Annie Gurnity. I'm the school psychologist.
Right, and in just a second, I'll stop screen sharing so that we can see more people. But as we are going through some questions with our teachers, after that, we're going to have a little group discussion where we're going to ask people to think about how what you hear from our teachers relates to the Greenprint. The Greenprint is a guideline for what makes a green schools. And there's 5 things that the Greenprint points out. They are curriculum that advances environmental literacy and sustainability. So that is, you're looking for, you know, how are we teaching about sustainability, about the environment, and helping our kids to achieve those standards and those understandings. And in the chat, the Greenprint with more detail is in the chat if people want to click on and open it. The second one is stewardship and service learning. So are we serving the community? Is that tied into our curriculum? Are we taking care of the planet? The third one, sustainable facilities design and management. We are very proud of our sustainable facilities here at Prairie Crossing. We have a LEED Gold certified school building. However, that probably won't come up too much in the teacher panel, but health and well-being definitely will be. So we'll be addressing how being a green school helps with student health and well-being, both mental and physical. And finally, strong partnerships and networks, which you've already heard a little bit about through our work with Green Schools National Network, but you might hear some other connections there as well. So after our teachers speak, we'll be discussing how you saw those things, those elements in what people said. And that said, I'm going to stop sharing the presentation right now so that we can see a few more folks. And we'd like to start with addressing our first question is for the teachers is how do you use place-based learning to increase engagement and create authentic learning opportunities? We want to start at kindergarten and work our way up. Mrs. Parker?
Yeah, sure, I'll start. So in kindergarten, just like in all the grades at Prairie Crossing, we try to keep the environment at the center of everything that we do academically. In kindergarten, our overarching science and social studies theme is change over time. So we spend a lot of time throughout the year studying how animals, plants, the weather, people, ourselves, how we all change from season to season. In the fall and winter, the students become experts on animal adaptations, such as hibernation and migration. And then in the spring, they delve into plant life cycles by watching the seeds of our classroom garden grow, which they partake in the planting and the watering and the tending to those plants. Towards the end of the year, they have this hands-on learning experience of raising caterpillars, which we just released as butterflies, and the kids get to watch them go through their metamorphosis. And this really mirrors the transformation that they themselves go through, not only from the time that they're little babies till they're the end of year kindergartners, but just the changes that they go through from the beginning of the year to the end of the year too.
And then they move on to first and second grade.
Yes, in first and second grade, one of the big ways we increase engagement is through solo spots. So students have one spot that we go to throughout the year. We try to get there at least twice a month to study phenology and incorporate our science standards. So they have a nature journal that they bring and write or draw in into a response, could be a teacher prompt. So some of the things we're studying are plants and animals in science. And so that's a really great connection out at our solo spots. And we use the plants and animals right outside the door. As Mrs. Parker mentioned, the gardens, so that's right outside the door. We partnered up with our local Audubon Society to create a meaningful unit about birds that culminates with a field trip to a local forest preserve to bird watch. We have the gardens outside our classroom door. So in first and second grade, we incorporate outdoor learning in some fashion in all of our subjects. One of the ones that we did this year at the beginning of the year was looking at landforms, and then we went out around school and looked for the landforms that we could find in our environment. So solo spots really become a part of all of our units that we study in some way, shape, or form.
Excellent. And Megan, tell us what happens in third and fourth grade.
All right. So in addition to weekly solo spots and phenology lessons, we partner with Naomi, our Dean of Environmental Learning, and we come up with weekly lessons that incorporate our science and social studies standards. In addition to that, students prepare and then plant seeds in our garden beds throughout the garden season, they have to tend to the gardens, and then we harvest the foods. Each year we grow and donate an early crop, which would be something like lettuce or radishes, to a local food bank that they actually research and then come up with which one will take fresh foods for those in need. The environment becomes the center of all that we learn as we incorporate outdoor learning and monthly natural leadership assembly challenges into our daily curriculum. Towards the end of the year, which we're doing right now, we dedicate a week for Native American Week, and students participate in hands-on activities, and we really try to immerse them into the true Native American experience. Not only do we partner with Skip, a Native American himself, but we also utilize other community resources who share information, knowledge, and experiences with our students. At the end of the week, students don't just have paper pencil, outcomes. They view a person, an in-person powwow ceremony, and really appreciate and connect with this week-long experience.
All right, yeah, so that's what we're in the middle of this week. It's very exciting around here. Susan, 5th grade.
All right. So in 5th grade, our curriculum includes learning and working within a farm-to-table approach. So as several people have already mentioned, we do involve the students in our classroom gardens. Those are right behind our classroom. And the students are actively involved in planning the gardens ahead of time and planting from seed so that they can create a harvest that we then use in the classroom. This experience helps them to learn about growing conditions, spacing, following a schedule, and other important environmental skills. Then they plan a menu, and they're actively involved in organizing and preparing a meal that is then served to all 5th and 6th grade students. Through this experience that we call Tomatoes Jubilee, they learn important leadership and collaboration skills. A lot of these students are much better chefs in the kitchen than I am, so I'm always impressed with their skills. This year, the 5th grade classes also addressed the issue of pollinators and increasing the pollinator population. They wanted to plant a garden that would attract pollinators. So as a grade, students researched plants that would attract these pollinators and drew a garden design. This garden design was submitted as a grant proposal to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources as part of the Illinois Schoolyard Habitat Action Plan. We were so excited that our proposal was accepted, and in the spring, we will receive these plants and begin planting. The students will create a description of the garden, explain its purpose on a placard that will be placed nearby, and this will be directly outside the 5th grade classrooms so that they can always enjoy it as they go on through the grades. In the Carson building, they'll be able to look back on the garden that they helped to design and plant.
Awesome. Yeah, I got muddy knees from planting with 5th graders this morning. So, all right. Chris. You're muted, Chris.
Thank you. And 6th grade, we connected what they were learning, which was the water cycle, with science and mathematics. It was we took what they were learning and what they knew and tied that into real world problems so that they could help out the school and help out the local environment. One of the early projects that we did was looking at the fact that our new building actually didn't have gutters. And so students worked on that problem and actually helped to raise money to fix, to put gutters onto the building to help store rainwater for the gardens that they were growing. It's a lot of times it's extremely important to have very local and problems that they can easily solve. Okay.
All right, and moving up to our oldest students in 7th and 8th grade, Heather.
All right, so in 7th and 8th grade science, we use the environment as anchors for our lessons and for big scientific understandings. So for example, in my 7th grade classes, we're studying water quality, and we are just really thankful and lucky to have these wonderful lakes behind our school. So instead of talking about what it could be, our kids are in waders with nets in there trying to figure out the tolerance level of different macroinvertebrates and actually figuring them out, identifying them, utilizing a key, and collecting data. We then utilize information that they're learning from math in order to map, to graph these out, trends that we're seeing, et cetera, to assess our water quality. And then by utilizing that data, they actually create proposals for the homeowners association of recommendations of things that the homeowners association can either continue doing to maintain that water quality level, or recommendations to fix any problems that they're seeing, incorporating some of those ELA aspects as well. In social studies, the space around our school is transformed to help the students immerse themselves into history. Students explore the space around campus, such as Lewis and Clark, where they are writing diaries and mapping where they're going. They're using orienteering skills to find treasures, and they leave treasures behind. And then these maps and diaries become historical artifacts that the other 7th grade class then uses as a way to navigate around the same path that they just followed.
All right, that sounds fun. I wish I could do it. We have not yet heard from Annie. So Annie, who is our school psychologist, can you tell us a little bit about some of the non-academic benefits of environmental learning that we see here at Prairie Crossing?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Absolutely. So, I think everywhere we see, there are benefits of environmental learning that go beyond academic knowledge and growth. And we see that come out in a few ways at Prairie Crossing. So, first of all, just spending time outdoors and engaging with nature has direct benefits to our mental and physical health. More and more research is being done about that, especially given the circumstances of the past year. We see students, who are feeling disengaged in the classroom, they're distracted, withdrawn, they're dysregulated. They change notably when they come outside. We have students who take breaks outside specifically because we see the effects of just being in nature that it has on them, and it has on all of us. And we feel it too, right? We feel kind of calmed and refreshed and rejuvenated just spending time outdoors. So we definitely see that. We see that providing learning opportunities in nature provides fresh and unique ways for students to collaborate and to engage socially, to problem solve together, and for classroom communities to kind of come together as well. We see students take pride in, their harvesting, everything that the teachers have talked about. They obviously feel really excited and good about the things they're actually growing something. They feel good about what they're doing. They make connections over new discoveries on hikes and work together to solve environmental issues together. And then we also see that focusing on the environment and the planet gives students a sense of purpose, a realization that they're part of something bigger than themselves, and that we need to care for ourselves and help one another. So as sort of as stewards of the Earth community, they have a vested interest in the future and the health of the planet, and how that kind of circles back and affects our individual health. There's some other notable impacts, opportunity for just more hands-on types of projects and activities, change of scenery, change of pace in the learning day, getting out of the four walls of the classroom, the physical activity that can increase, reduce screen time as well, again, more important than ever over this past year. So those are kind of the things that we see, quite a significant impact.
Excellent. And do any of the classroom teachers want to share any specific examples when they've seen some of those things that Annie mentioned?
I mean, in kindergarten, we have lots of activity. Kids want to be moving around, and especially even, this year with the regulations with COVID, we've been able to get outside and get them moving and continue our academic learning outside, which is so awesome, but they're also getting all the benefits socially and emotionally of being in the outdoors.
Excellent. Yeah, it's something we definitely see, especially right now, I feel like. All right, we're going to go back to some classroom examples. I'm going to ask you to describe an example of a high quality P3BL unit that incorporated education for sustainability and led to increased student learning. Should we go from kindergarten to up to 8th grade again? Should we do it in the same order? Let's do it.
All right, so in kindergarten, we use our gardens, our classroom gardens, as kind of a catalyst for our PBLs. In the fall, the kindergartners come into school and they harvest the vegetables that were planted by the previous year's students, and they learn that plants can be used in a variety of ways and can serve, you know, a lot of different purposes. So for instance, they peel the beans out of their pods, which is a great fine motor activity, but then they use those beans throughout the year as math manipulatives in the classroom. We cut the flowers that have grown all summer and beautified our school campus, and they present those flowers to different staff members throughout the school building as we learn about the different roles that they play in our school community, since community is a big unit in kindergarten. They husk the corn that we plant and they make the corn into the classroom decorations. And then the carrots and onions and beans that were planted in the spring are used in a soup recipe that the kindergarten students help make and then serve to different members of the staff. And then in the spring, those same students will plant and water the seeds that will be harvested by the following year's kindergartens, and so kindergartners, and so the cycle will then continue.
All right, so gardens do play a big part in several of our PBL units. What about 1st and 2nd grade, Christine?
So kind of going along what Mrs. Parker mentioned is that so we have a community unit and we include those economy standards. And our guiding question is, how can the 1st and 2nd graders explore the use of a bean crop to create a sellable product for families using their knowledge of government and economics? So the students made and decided to sell to families a soup in a jar. We also partnered with Farm to Table and had that soup presented at the February Farm to Table lunch program. In other years, the students have been part of our landscape and garden design, similar to what Susan mentioned with the 5th graders. So they've done that quite often. Outside our classroom doors, we have different types of gardens, and the students have taken part in designing them, from picking out the plants to actually digging the holes and putting the plants in the ground, and taking part of keeping the garden presentable to the environment.
All right, moving up.
All right, in 3rd and 4th grade, students participate in an economics PBL, and our guiding question is, how does economics play a key role in sustainability? So in this unit, students visit a local apple orchard to learn about the process of growing, harvesting, and selling apples. Students then make connections between the weather and other natural phenomena and the outcomes for farmers, like what happens if it's a bad weather year or if there's no rain and things like that. Students learn that purchasing products locally positively impacts our society and environment by calculating food miles and costs for transportation. Students must purchase goods from a local place, in this case, a local orchard, and based on their expected sales, they'll calculate, advertise their product, and understand that advertisements directly impact how consumers spend their money. So we have 4 different classes doing this with different types of advertising. The goal is for students to understand the triple bottom line and how the environment, businesses, and people are all interconnected. Each classroom then gets to do their favorite part, and we come together and create a business plan, and they have to visit Mr. Deegan, our executive director, for a business loan for their cider sales. Once they achieve that loan, they sign it, and at the end of the project, they go back to Mr. Deegan and they pay back their loan, and then the profits are combined and we donate it to a local food bank.
All right, I love how we're seeing this one theme sort of grow and see how it changes and gets more complex and advanced as our students get understandings get more complex and advanced. Susan, continue that journey for us.
Okay, so I had mentioned earlier that one of the big events in 5th and 6th grade is called Tomatoes Jubilee. And it's something that the students look forward to every year. And they start in 5th grade. The students work together. We have a master chef group, and they're the leaders. and they guide the rest of the grade in a menu to create this Tomatoes Jubilee event. So together they decide what dishes they would like to include in a multi-course meal. And then they present their ideas to the 6th grade teachers and students, just to be sure that their ideas are approved and are accepted by a majority of the people involved. Then later in the year, both 5th grade classes collaborate to place a seed order that then becomes the seeds that we plant in our classroom gardens. That following fall, after the produce is harvested, students will begin to organize a list of ingredients that are needed for our cooking experience. So now these 5th graders have become 6th graders. And so they can now see how what they started the year prior by developing a menu, planting the seeds, and now harvesting those plants. Now they can see how we can create a multi-course meal for the 5th and 6th grade student body. So now as 6th graders, they can become the leaders to organize all 4 of the 5-6 classes as they prepare recipes that were chosen the prior year. The food is then shared with the 5-6 student body, teachers, and several invited adults. This year, we also included the discussion on pollinators, and we always emphasize the significant role that they play in the sustainability of the harvest.
Right, I hope I'm one of the invited adults. It sounds delicious. Chris, what comes next in this arc?
As I was already stated, 6th grade has done a lot of projects around the water cycle and water. And last year, going along with the idea of growing and farming, they were presented with the challenge of growing fresh food in the winter months for farm to table. Students took on that role. They were eager to look into this. They started using their skills they learned in ELA to research the problem, research how you can grow food in winter months. They quickly decided that they needed to do it indoors and quickly hooked on to the point of hydroponics as their solution. The students then learned, and I actually learned quite a bit from them, that there's actually a multitude of ways to do hydroponics. And they each then broke into groups to become experts in their chosen field of hydroponics that they were going to learn about. They then were presented to a panel of teachers and administration. And during their discussion, actually, it was very interesting because they were trying to decide, should they just give information of the pros and cons of each system, or should they only tell the good things and try to sell them on what their idea was? After a long discussion, it was very interesting. They came to the idea that the school board or the administrators will make a proper decision. They need to know the good and the bad of each system, and not try to sell them like they were like it was advertisement from a TV commercial. So the administrators came down, they presented their information. The panel told them what they liked and what they didn't like. And then the students came back together and focused on one type of system. And then as a group, even the students who wasn't chosen, they went with the regular group and then started researching that hydroponic system. They ended up choosing a company to buy from. They researched prices, they researched how much money was going to cost. They looked at grants and actually filled out grants from the local farm bureau to get some money to help pay for it. And by the end of the school year, we actually ended up with a grow tower that they chose for the hydroponics. This year was supposed to be testing that hydroponics. How much can it grow? How much can it feed? But unfortunately, due to the situations of the year, we haven't really gotten to that part of the project yet, but crossing fingers for next year.
But with no students on campus, I got to enjoy some lettuce. So that was nice. All right, Heather, take us home.
All right, and so with all of the wonderful skills that they learned throughout kindergarten through 7th grade, once they get to 7th grade, they embark on a 2-year culminating project that really ends up being a passion project that is where they define an environmentally based problem in their local community and work either independently or with a small group towards helping to solve or figure out what the cause is, etc. It really helps them to develop their natural leader skills. Empowering them to make change in their community is what we are all about. So we start them by looking at the UN goals for sustainability as a jumping point. What issues do you see in your community? What areas interest you and how can you help? And what we find is that they have different passions in different areas based upon experiences that they've had in other grade bands in their PBL units. So some of them are advocating for No Child Left Inside, and they are going and speaking to governors, and they're writing to people attempting to get legislation passed. We had a student who was gung-ho on plastic bag reform, and she did it. It was pretty great. We've had Des Plaines River being an issue, and it had large organized cleanups, a variety of different farm to table programs being set up in areas that don't have access to fresh produce, recycling programs, gardening programs, at local daycares and adult care facilities are just a few of the projects that we've had. But CP, as we affectionately call them, is a wonderful culminating project of their time here at Prairie Crossing.
Yep, it's great to see our kids out making an impact on the world around them, even before they are, officially adults. So we know that when they become adults, they're going to do great things. All right, I do not think that we have enough folks to merit breakout rooms, so we're just going to open this up to a little bit of discussion and reaction. As I said, first we wanted to see if what we were doing met with that Greenprint that we talked about at the beginning, which was curriculum that advances environmental literacy and sustainability, stewardship and service learning, sustainable facilities design and management, health and well-being, and strong partnerships and networks. I don't know if any of our audience members would like to chime in, but did anyone notice any of those things being addressed by what our teachers said?
You can just raise your hand or just unmute yourself and just.
Or feel free to use the chat function as well.
Yes.
I know some people like to do it that way. Wait time. See if we get anyone. Oh, Sarah, did you want to chime in?
I will if nobody in the audience has anything to say right now. I was so furiously filling in the cells of my note catcher with all the things that were being said by this wonderful panel of instructional leaders. There was certainly a lot about the curriculum that advances environmental literacy and sustainability in kindergarten, the life cycles of various plants and bugs and so forth. Mrs. Parker talked about that, the water cycle, the nature journal, the weekly solar spots someone talked about, stewardship and service learning, harvesting food, donations to needy people in our community, farm to table for sustainable facilities, health and well-being. Our psychologist Annie talked a lot about that in terms of the importance of mental health, collaboration, problem solving. And I was most thrilled with the partnerships with the Audubon Society, with the Homeowners Association. This was just astounding. I can just show you. I mean, I've just filled everything on this page. So this was just delightful. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we hope that some of these ideas that our teachers have shared will influence folks out there to try doing some of this in their classroom, take kids outdoors to learn, use the environment as an integrating context to think about the issues that are challenging our students, have them solve problems. it is a great way to learn. And you've heard that from our alumni, and you've heard it from our teachers. And now we're gonna invite you to hear it. I'm gonna share my screen again, from some of our current students. So first, we've got a couple of our fourth graders in Megan's class that are going to share their thoughts with you.
My favorite memory of learning in EE was last year when we went into a forest and it was our first free ride. Kids should be able to do EE because you learn observing, writing, and drawing skills. My favorite memory
again. Now it's time for Finley.
My favorite memory is growing carrots in the garden at school. I think it is important to grow food because it teaches kids how to grow food in a garden, harvest it, and be sustainable.
All right.
My favorite memory is growing carrots.
And we have a fifth grade perspective.
One of my
from Jack.
favorite memories was when my fifth grade class learned about different pollinators native to Illinois. I was assigned the hoverfly. I liked this project because we got to learn so much about our bugs that we didn't already know. I think environmental learning is important because you get to learn about what's really outside of the world. There's so many neat things about the environment that people should really know about. One of my favorite memories was
me again. Okay, let's see if it works this time. Here is Bridget.
Hi, I'm Bridget, and a memory I had learning outside in nature was drawing plants and flowers in our sketchbooks. And I think it's important for kids to learn about nature so that in the environment so that they can help the earth and stuff become healthier by not polluting.
Worked that time. All right, here is Brox.
Hello, my name is Brox H, and I'm going to talk about why it is important to go out in nature and why the school helps accomplish that. So one of the stories about this is, I'm pretty sure it was in 5th grade, where Miss Flagstaff and Miss Naomi, we were going to Lake Michigan. We were going to the beach there, but it was flooded, so we had to go around it. But I remember that there was some stepping stones that we could have gone on, and well, we finished that trip. It's important to go out and enjoy the world, is because sometimes you just need to get out of the house, get away from people, and especially during these times in COVID, it's very important to clear your mental space and just calm down.
All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Tony so that we can see a little bit of this in action.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you to all the teachers, Jeff, and the crew that's on board today to help share all this information. As Naomi said, what my job the rest of the way is to show you a little bit about how this happens in action. One of the questions out there that I saw in the chat, though, I wanted to preface all of this with the curriculum that we use. We do use a certain amount of standard curriculum that can be purchased by any school in any of your curriculum providers. But the majority of what we use is developed right here within our school. It's developed by our teachers, our environmental leader, and they start with the standards at their foundation, both the sustainability standards and the Common Core standards, and they build up. You've seen the continuum of learning happening from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade with the culminating project. A lot of times those themes are built throughout each grade band. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you a couple videos. We're going to show you a couple videos of our teachers in actions. During these videos, please feel free, take a little bit of time and see if you can identify those themes. And if you can pick where you're seeing the Common Core built into this curriculum, et cetera. So without any further, let's see our first set in action.
Out here videotaping with Miss Jackson's 7th graders as we embark on some water quality testing in one of the local ponds behind our school. This is Prairie Smoke Pond. Currently, we are collecting water samples to assess for macroinvertebrates. They're starting by getting a clean sample and then finding some, what we are going to call muck and mire from the bottom, some algae to assess and see if there are macroinvertebrates inside. Once they've collected their sample, they're going to head back up with the rest of their group members and identify what they found to test the tolerance levels of this local pond to assess if it's got good water quality or poor water quality. And then we'll figure out what to do with it from there.
So in that slide, you saw our 7th graders working on water quality. That is a culminating unit of sorts that caps the entire career of learning with regard to water quality and conservation. Much like the continuum of learning literacy, our environmental and sustainability units start with the lower grades and build throughout the whole career here at Prairie Crossing. You may have even heard one of our alumni earlier mention doing a similar water quality unit 15 years ago, when they were checking the salinity and trying to identify and hypothesize why the salinity levels in our local lakes are changing. In the next slide, you're going to see Naomi working with some kindergartners at their class tree. Because of the pandemic this year, these students have only seen their tree via Zoom up into the day of this taping. So it was a pretty big deal for those kindergartners that day. So let's take a look at this kindergarten tree.
Okay, these we might see leaves on our tree, or we might see acorns on our tree. I want you to tilt your head back and look up. You definitely see something green on our tree, don't you? Now next year, what we need to do next year is choose a tree and roll it to the ground. No, I know it is, but it's hard for us to see what's happening on our tree. Oh, okay. So I'm just gonna snap one twig off that we're gonna share. This is our learning twig. So I can come around and show you up close what is happening with our tree. But right now, I want you to see these dangly things. These dangly things that you'll see are flowers. Some trees get brightly colored flowers that are trying to attract insects to pollinate them. But this tree gets dangly flowers and it's trying to get wind to help it out. So these are actually the flowers of our tree, even though they may not be super brightly colored and white and yellow and pink and stuff like that. A lot of times in the spring, by the way, when you look out, like when you see the green on those trees over there, all that is flowers. Those aren't leaves yet, but people think, oh, it's... We might see leaves on our... Long? That's a good question. So these are the flowers, and flowers have an important job. Do you guys know what that is? To grow. Well, to grow and to make seeds. So flowers are making seeds for this tree to have baby trees. Well, there are no seeds yet because the flowers haven't made seeds, but in order to make seeds, these little hanging things are filled with pollen. And the pollen has to find another flower where it can land And then when those two flowers get together, the seeds can start to form. So if you watch these trees, they'll form seeds, but this is where the pollen is right now that you're seeing hanging down.
So will the pollen get on our fingers if we touch it?
It might be too old.
So now is this the kind of pollen our butterflies might eat, Miss Naomi? Or they eat nectar though, right?
Yeah, well, what happens is butterflies and bees and stuff, they eat nectar. The nectar is up in this part and they have to get past, so they don't eat the pollen, but they go past the pollen and it brushes on them.
Okay.
But they wouldn't eat this maple one. It's just not the right shape for their proboscis. It's, you know.
What is that proboscis?
It's your butterfly mouth bit. Have you guys looked real close? Okay, we're gonna let the tree go.
I got it.
Have you guys looked at your butterfly's mouth bit?
Okay, wonderful. Some pretty high level vocabulary in there too. I don't know if you heard the kindergartner asking, what is a proboscis? Very good. And they soon find out with their butterfly unit, of course. Those lessons will be the foundation for many lessons and activities that these children will experience throughout their next 8 years at Prairie Crossing Charter School. On this next slide, you're going to see the second graders starting in on their garden planting. It's fun to watch how the teachers integrate the reading, writing, and math standards into these highly engaging activities. Let's take a look at gardening in second grade.
We're going to be doing our first outdoor planting in our gardens. We're going to be planting carrots. Who likes carrots? Raise your hand if you like carrots. So you guys can look forward to eating some carrots in the fall. Excuse me. We'll plant them in the spring. We'll have them in the fall. Today we're going to be planting them. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to head outside and you're each going to get a tool. And when we're out there, I will explain how the different tools work. But while we're in here, I just want to make sure we all know that when we're carrying a tool, it needs to be straight up and down, just like you are. So yes, no, yes, no. And the business end, that's the end that we're working with, is down. So see how I have the yellow rake part of my rake down, and it's right next to me. These are our safety precautions, so we need to make sure that we're carrying our tools this way. Then when we get outside, I'll explain how the tools will work. We'll be prepping our soil, and after we get the soil beds all ready, then I'll explain how planting carrots works. And you will, and you will take turns planting carrots. That's why you have your nature journal. When you're not planting, you'll be working in your nature journal as well, okay? Yes, so it looks like our friends have coats on, but not shoes yet.
Correct.
So we'll go ahead and I will meet you outside. You can come out, usually send them out a couple at a time, right?
Yep,
when
one
you
at a time.
come out, I'll get you a tool.
Awesome, good job, you guys.
And rake people, we are going to flatten this out.
Thank you. So if you notice where they're working in this particular lesson, they are actually in our garden plots that are on an island in the middle of our parking lot at our school. We've taken extra care over the last few years to try to use every piece of land that we have at the school in a positive way and make it part of our growing programs, our sustainable schoolyard, so to speak. And we have, I think, in the range of 20 garden plots just in that island in that one parking lot, which is a great use of that land. Some of you that have schools that might not have quite as much open land, look around. You're going to find more land that's usable than you realize. So now you've heard from Mr. Deegan and some of our teachers, our wonderful teaching staff, our school psychologist, Miss Naomi. You've heard from our current students and our alumni. Hopefully you can synthesize all those messages into what we already know as a successful model for teaching and learning. Our many awards and academic numbers are nice, and although not necessary, they do help us to see the value in what we do and in our learning plan here. They help the staffs, student, and community know how effective our plans are. And it helps us, quite frankly, know that we are, in fact, creating natural leaders. This particular slide, Jeff mentioned a few of our accolades, but this particular slide shows just a few of our key awards. Our green school and blue school ribbons are two that we cherish and we have earned. Our academic successes, as you've heard, 75% of our graduates are placed in honors or above classes, advanced classes in high school. We're consistently in the top 10% of Illinois as measured by our academic standards. But again, when it comes to personalized learning, our curriculum gives the teachers the greatest freedom to differentiate and provide interventions and a personalized learning environment. Next slide. This year has been an interesting year for Prairie Crossing, as well as all schools, quite frankly, in the whole world. We've had to adapt quite a bit here at Prairie Crossing. We're used to being outside. We're used to having a lot of hands-on activities, very hands-on, and having to go remote and hybrid learning has definitely eaten into those goals. But our teachers have done an amazing job of trying to get the environment into the homes and continue with those engaging learning all through this situation. Slide. Some of the challenges that we have here at Prairie Crossing every day and every year is the innovative curriculum that we use rests so much on our staff. They tirelessly are looking for new avenues to innovate and integrate the environment into everything they do, and they do an amazing job at it. Making sure you have an administration that supports that mission and those teachers at the school is key as well. And of course, the weather. You always have to deal with the weather. The teachers are always looking to make sure they have alternatives. They always have that extra lesson in their back pocket should the weather interfere with what they were originally planning. On other hands, sometimes we just put on our parkas and we go outside in the weather. And that always makes it an engaging and enjoyable day. So next slide, please. That does conclude the basic presentation. I'm going to give you a chance for question and answers in just a second, but I am required to make sure that you please fill out the survey in the chat. This is required for you to receive your CPDUs for this webinar. We thank you all for coming. On behalf of Prairie Crossing Charter School, all our staff, students, and community, we thank you. We hope that you can take something from this webinar and use it at your school to begin teaching sustainability the way that we should be. Let's open it up. I think the next slide is for some Q&A. If there's any questions for our panel or teachers or administrators, please feel free, put them in the chat or raise your hand. And otherwise, have a great Cinco de Mayo.
And we do have our contact information there. If anyone comes up with a question later, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to address that when you do. Sarah?
Yes, so I had a question about the what Jenny Seydel had said at the beginning when you had the video of her. She talked about the Catalyst Network and that Prairie Crossing is a replication hub. Can someone speak to that?
Well, as you know, part of what charter schools are charged with is spreading what we do, all the great and innovative work that we do that works. We want to get it out there to other schools, and we want every student to learn in a green school and to understand sustainability. And so the Catalyst Network has been a way for us to start achieving that. As Jenny said, they've helped us to sort of hone our craft and then to become and then to spread that to other schools through offering professional development to them, sort of like what we're doing now. But we've done that in other ways through the Green Schools National Network. And so we are able to help other schools to include some of these elements of a green school and the education for sustainability and the P3BL into what they do through those contacts that we make by being a Catalyst school. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I just didn't know what the Catalyst Network was in particular, but I can see now.
Yeah, they've identified a small handful of schools throughout the nation that are using these green practices and showing how successful it can be. And so they work with those schools, all those schools, to spread that. And as Jenny said, we were among the first one to do a site seminar to try to get the word spread through them.
Okay. This was really great. I think I learned so much, and I hope that those folks who will watch this recording on the website, because that's the next place you can find it, will reach out to Naomi and Tony for tips on how you might be able to pull some of these things in. And as you know from this Blue Ribbon panel of teachers, you have an outstanding group of folks who can give you the technical assistance that you need. Even if you are an urban school and you don't have a lot of green spaces, there are ways one can do this. And so, yeah, thank you all very much. This brings does anybody else have any questions, Tanya or Christina? Have any questions? Is there anything in the chat box? No, probably not. In that case, let's bring this to a close, panel. Thank you again. You guys, the panel, can sign off. Tony and Naomi, please stay back for a debrief with the backstage team. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.